fire protection and prevention. Wala, ayaw malipat.
Okay. Sige. Paki-start mo ulit,
Ayan, sir.
Arvilin.
Nalilipat, sir. Ay,
Ah,
nakita po pag nalipat.
nakikita naman. Balik ka sa balik ka sa una. Pwede. Yan, okay, start.
Fire protection and prevention. So, how do fire occur? For a fire to occur, there are three elements that must come together at the same time and in the right proportions. Fuel, heat, oxygen. Remove and off the elements, and the fire will go out. The fire triangle is commonly used as a model to understand how fire starts and how it can be prevented. So, ito yung fire triangle. So, composed siya ng fuel. Fuels are flammable or combustible materials and can be gases, liquid, or solids. Next is the heat. These are ignition sources and include an open flame. And next is the oxygen. The most common source of oxygen is air. But oxygen can also come from chemicals called oxidizers. So, section 10 of fire protection and prevention. This section sets forth and requirements for prevention and protection. In addition to the fire prevention and protection requirements of this section, other sections of this standard address requirements relating to specific hazards and operations, welding and cutting. So, fire prevention requirements. First is fire prevention. Write a fire prevention plan for each facility. Include a list of danger workplace, fire hazards, potential ignition sources, the type of the fire suppression equipment of systems appropriate to control a fire, assignments of responsibilities for maintaining the equipment and systems, personnel responsible for controlling the fuel source, hazards, and housekeeping procedures, including the removal of waste materials. So, provide additional training for personnel assigned tasks that require them to remain in the facility during a fire emergency. The work area where these individuals remain during a fire emergency must be evaluated as an area of refuge in accordance with NFPA 101 Life Safety Code. So, types of extinguishers. So, first is the Class A. This is used for ordinary combustibles such as wood, paper, rubber, plastic, and cloth. Next is Class B, surface fire, flammable or combustible liquids and gases, such as gasoline, alcohol, paints, thinner, grease, and LPG release of gas. Next is Class C, electrical fire, involves live electrical equipment, such as motors, electric fan, air conditioning unit, computer. Next is Class D, combustible metals, such as aluminum, magnesium, sodium, titanium. Next is Class K, involving combustible vegetable or animal oils and fats in cooking equipment. So next is housekeeping. Maintain a good housekeeping. Promptly remove and dispose of accumulations of combustible scrap and debris in all areas of the job site. Use self-closing metal containers to collect waste saturated with flame or combustible liquids. At all facilities, properly collect, store, and remove combustible and flammable waste products at the end of each workday or at the end of each work shift. Use only non-combustible or UL-labeled non-metallic containers to dispose of waste and rubbish. Keep combustible items separate from each other and from non-combustible items. Label the contents of the container. Next
Balik ka
is,
nga doon na, Arvilin. Ano yung UL? Alam mo ba yung UL?
ano sir, ano yun? Underwriters Laboratories.
So, Underwriters Laboratory, yun ang nagko-control parang, di ba yung nasa mga produkto na UL, merong iba't ibang mga organization na nagko-control ng quality, no? Kung madaling masunog, kung paano ipapackage, no? So, Underwriters Laboratory. Kasama yan ng mga standards, di ba? CSA, Canadian Standards,
Yes, sir.
at kung ano na pa mga standard. Okay, sige. Natanong ko lang. Sige, salamat. Tuloy mo.
Ground maintenance. Prevent the growth of tall, dark, dry grass, brush, and weeds adjacent to facilities with a maximum 3-foot fire break. Next is smoking. Prohibit smoking and other sources of ignition in storage areas for flammable or explosive materials or near operations that constitute a fire hazard. So, ayan yung, tawag dito. Side,
Bakit 10? Anong chapter ba yung 10? Saan mo ba kinuha yan? Sa PSME o sa ibang organization?
NFPA, sir.
Sa US, no? National Fluid Power Association, NFPA
Apo, sir. Tama
standards.
po po tapos.
Okay, okay. Sige. Thank you.
Next is open flame devices. Do not leave fires in open flame devices, such as incinerators, torch, and controlled fires, unattended unless they have automatic temperature control and cut-off devices. Next is the cleaning and decreasing. Do not use gasoline or liquids with the flash point below 100 degrees Fahrenheit for cleaning and degreasing. Use only approved cleaners, especially for type of equipment and material. So ito po yung example table na mga classes po na pwedeng gamitin. Included po yung flashpoint.
Okay.
Next is fireproofing. Is rendering something such as structure materials resistant to fire or incombustible or material for use in making anything fireproof. It is a passive fire protection measure. Maintain adequate clearance between heating facilities and combustible materials. Next is explosive gases and vapors. Do not use open flames for heat or heating elements where flammable gases or vapors may be present. For building and structures, ensure non-fire resistant buildings or structures are at least 25 feet apart. However, considered a group of non-fire resistant buildings with a total ground floor area of no more than 2,000 square feet as one building for this purpose, provided that each building in the group is at least 10 feet away on each side from other buildings. Next is the building exits. Ensure the exit from all buildings, shop, and other facilities in which personal work or which are open to the public are sufficiently well marked and lighted. Evaluate the adequacy of the means of exit. So, for inspection, ito po sir, sample table po ng mga inspection sir.
Okay.
Mga ano po,
Anong makikita dyan sa mga inspection? Magbigay ka nga ng example.
mga item po sir.
Mag-discuss ka lang ng isa. Halimbawa, ayan. Ano ba ito? Yung
Ito po sir.
generator. Generator ba yan? Yung nagbibigay ng power?
Po, sir, CO2.
Kuryente? Generator tsaka carbon dioxide. Sige nga.
Sir, ini-inspect po siya weekly. Kapag weekly po, chine-check yung nozzle for physical damage. Tapos,
Okay.
ito sir, nakatibot pa. Ensure the self-closing doors or automatically releasing doors are in place for low pressure carbon dioxide system. Check the liquid level in each low pressure gauge and refill if loss is greater than 10%. So, for monthly check naman po, check electrical control circuits and including lights, check for signs of leakage at cylinders. Check for signs of physical damage to system components. So, semi-annually, weigh all cylinders and refill necessary operate control. Ano mabasa? May nakaharang, sir. Heads, test and check system accordance.
So, ang nakalagay pala dyan, yung mga item tsaka yung inspection period, no? Yung interval.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yung panahon, kung weekly, kung monthly, kung every 6 months or semi-annual or annual, na kung anong mga gagawin dapat, no?
Apo, sir. Meron pa po dito sir, mga kasunod yan. For ito po first
sige. Okay na yan, yung mga ganyan. No? Ibig lang sabihin, yung mga weekly, yun yung mga critical, no? Yung lagi mo talagang dapat inspect, no? Weekly, daily, weekly, no? Pag hindi naman ganun ka-critical, pwedeng 6 na buwan or 1 taon. No?
Sir, semi-annual. So, next is for heating devices. Requirements for heating devices. The following requirements must be met prior to the use of heating devices. First is the approval. Use only heating devices accepted by the area or the office manager. Include the following items in acceptance request. First is the proposed placement, including distance from combustibles. Second is the service maintenance and surveillance schedule. Next is the proposed fuel storage and refueling system. The method for prompt detection, gas use, contamination, or oxygen deficiency. Next is the data plates. Permanently affix a data plate to each heater that provides the following information. First is the required clearances. Next is the ventilation requirements. Third is fuel type and input pressure. Fourth is lighting and extinguishing instructions. Fifth is electrical power supply characteristics. So for wood floors, mark heaters that are not suitable for use on wood floors and do not place them on combustible materials. When using such heaters, rest them on appropriate non-combustible material equivalent to at least 1 inch of concrete. The non-combustible material must extend at least 2 feet beyond the heater in all directions. Next is combustible covering. Do not use heaters near covers such as tarpaulins, canvas, or similar combustible materials. Locate heaters at least 10 feet away from these and similar materials. Secure, fasten, or tie down the coverings. Next is the stability. Place heaters on level surface to prevent tipping. Installation. Install, vent, operate, and maintain heaters in accordance with the manufacturer's instruction. For spark arresters, install spark arresters or smoke track stacks that could otherwise permit sparks to escape. So next is carbon monoxide monitor. Facilities where heating devices use combustible fuels, carbon monoxide monitors. Next is grounding. Ground the non-current carrying metal parts, cord and plug connected heaters. So portable space heaters. Use only electric-powered portable space heaters equipped with tip-over safety devices and thermoplastic controls in office spaces. Maintain 3 feet of clearance for combustible materials. For liquid fuel heaters, the following requirements govern the use of liquid fuel heaters. First, general. Heaters may be either direct or indirect fired. Kerosene, stove oil, and diesel oil are permissible fuels. The flash point of the fuel must be at least 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Stability. Securely anchor liquid fuel heaters or locate them to prevent leaking. For the design, equip liquid fuel heaters with an automatic flame loose device that will stop the flow of fuel when the flame is extinguished. For fueling, train employees tasked with fueling to be truly familiar with the manufacturer's heater operation and fueling instructions. Before fueling, extinguish the heater and permit it to cool until cool to touch. Store fuel in and dispense fuel from. Up, approve flammable liquid containers. For maintenance, maintain heaters in good operating condition in accordance with the manufacturer's instruction. So for natural gas heaters, in general, install, operate, and maintain natural gas heaters in accordance with the manufacturer's instruction. Next is stability. Securely anchor heaters or locate to prevent tipping. Next is piping. Leak test piping, tubing, or hose after installation using a safe detection means such as soap suds. When using flexible gas supply lines, they must not be more than 5 feet long. Supply lines and hose must have a minimum working gauge pressure of 300 pounds per square inch, a minimum burst gauge pressure of 1,750 pounds per square inch, and a pull test of 400 pounds without leakage. Fuel cut-off. Equip heaters with an automatic flame loss device that will shut off the gas supply in the flame or pilot light is extinguished. Next is for liquefied petroleum gas or LPG heaters. In general, install, operate, and maintain LPG heaters in accordance with the manufacturer's instruction. Do not use, locate, or store LPG containers and heating devices below grade or in confined spaces. Next is protection. Protect heaters when in use from damage by location, anchoring, and barricading. Next is testing. Leak test piping, tubing, hoses, and flexible hose connections following installation using a means such as subsuds. Use only flexible gas supply lines that are less than 5 feet long. Supply lines and hose have a minimum working gauge pressure of 300 pounds per square inch, a minimum burst gauge pressure of 1,750 pounds per square inch, and a full test of 400 pounds without leakage. For hoses, use only a hose labeled LP gas or LPG. Hoses must have a minimum working gauge pressure of 200 pounds per square inch and a minimum burst gauge pressure of 1,750 pounds per square inch, keeping the hose as short as practical. Although long enough to comply with specified safe spacing requirements without in or straining the hose or cause it to be close enough to a burner to be damaged by heat. So, dapat malayo siya. Next is hose connections. The design capability of hose assemblies after the application of connection must withstand a pressure of at least 700 pounds per square inch. Do not leak test such assemblies at pressure higher than working pressure on the hose. Next is the for regulator. Keep heaters with approved regulator check valve, hose fuel, cylinder, connectors, and excess flow check to minimize the flow of gas in case of fuel line ruptures. Fuel cut-off. Equip heaters with an automatic flame loss device that will shut off the gas supply in the flame on pilot light is extinguished. So, fuel supply in buildings. Allow glass cylinders or containers in buildings or structures only in accordance with the following provisions. First, keep the maximum water capacity of the individual cylinders to 145 pounds. Nominal is 100 pounds LPG capacity or less. For, for temporary heating, such as curing concrete, drying materials, or similar uses, keep heaters at least 6 feet away from the LPG
Wait,
container.
Arvelin pa, malayo ba yung mouthpiece mo sa mic? Pakilapit yung sa mic.
Malapit na po.
Mahina eh. Ayan, yan, yan. Lapit mo,
Okay
ha?
na po, sir. Ayan,
Kasi,
sir.
yan, okay na.
Hawakan ko
Kasi
na lang.
naka-record kasi tayo, hindi marinig. Sige, ha? Tuloy mo
Sige
lang.
po, sir. Saan ba ako? However, you may use heaters specifically designed for attachment of to the LPG container or to a supporting structure with connecting hose less than 6 feet long. Provided the heater does not directly radiate heat onto the container, do not direct blower type or radiant heaters toward any LPG container that is within 20 feet of the heater. Next is keep LPG supply containers at least 20 feet apart when two or more heaters are in an partitioned area or the same floor. Next is LPG containers manifolded together supplying one or more heaters in an unpartitioned area on the same floor must not exceed 300-pound nominal LPG capacity. Keep such manifolds at least 20 feet apart. Next is containers may be manifolded together on floors where heaters are not connected for use. For connection to one or more heaters located on other floor, provided that first, the total nominal capacity of the container connected to any one manifold is 1,000 pounds LPG. Next is where more than one manifold having a nominal capacity. of 300 pounds. Next is located in the same partitioned area, and manifolds must be at least 50 feet apart. Containers. Store LPG containers not in use outside in accordance with the minimum distances identified in the section on material handling, storage, and disposal. Material restricted use. For open flame type heaters, do not use open flame type heating devices
Naglang pasok kasi sobrang init para
Next is for lubrication or service areas. You may install an approved type heater in lubrication or service areas where employees do not dispense or transfer flammable liquids. Only if the bottom of the heater is at least 18 inches above on the floor and protected from damage. If employees dispense flammable liquids in such areas, the heater must be of a type approved for garage and installed at least 8 feet above the floor. Next is fire extinguishers. Select fire extinguishers for a given situation accordance to the character of the fires anticipated, the construction and occupancy of the facility, the vehicle or hazard to be protected, ambient temperature conditions, the other factors identified in NFPA Standard 10. Select fire extinguishers for classes of hazard to be protected in accordance with the following. So, ito din yung kanina sa una, class A, B, C, D hazards. So, first type is pressurized water. Ginagamit lang siya for trash, wood, paper. Hindi siya pwede for liquids, gases, and electrical utilities. Next is extinguisher. Yung laman is carbon dioxide. Hindi siya pwede for trash, wood, paper. Pwede lang siya for liquid, gases, and electrical equipments. Next is dry chemical. Ito pwede siya sa lahat. Pwede siya for combustible materials, liquid gases, electrical equipment. Next is halon. Ito chemical din tong halon. Hindi siya pwede for trash, wood, paper. Pwede siya for liquid gases and electrical equipment only. Ito, combustible metal for ano lang siya.
Ano yan, may color coding din? Halimbawa, parang may color coding din siya.
Meron po, sir. Pag pressurized water, sir, wala. Ano lang siya,
parang stainless na, parang
stainless lang po. Pag carbon po, red.
Carbon dioxide yan, sa loob. Kasi nasa loob yan, di ba? Yan yung pinaka, ano niya, medium, no? Carbon dioxide yung pangpatay. Tapos, dry chemicals. Okay.
Halon po is green.
Halon.
Tapos, for metals po is, yellow.
Combustible metal, yan naman, yellow. Okay.
Next is water supply. Install a temporary or permanent water supply with sufficient flow volume and duration to supply the standpipes, hose stations, and sprinkler systems before or during the construction of the facility to be protected. In permanent structure under contract in which standpipes are installed, connect the standpipe to the water supply, install the standpipe concurrently with construction of the structure, and maintain the standpipe in operable condition for fire protection use. Provide the standpipes with fire department connections on the outside of the structure, conspicuously marked, and located in an accessible location at street or road level. So, ito yung mga nakikita natin na na parang mga nakatayong bakal sa mga areas, usually malapit sa buildings.
Anong tawag doon?
Alin, sir? Yung nakakonect po sa water supply?
Anong tawag doon sa... May tawag doon yun sa mga... Di ba, nasa harap ng building? Kaya kumisan may mga distance yan no?
Opo, sir. Standpipe.
May pati... standpipe ba?
Opo, sir.
Standpipe, oo.
Next is burning areas. Do not burn waste materials except in an approved and permitted incinerator.
Di ba sa balik ka doon. Di ba sa natin sa yung ni-report ni Dan Cari yung 8749 Clean Air Act, di ba? Hindi bawal na magsunog no kahit sa harap ng bahay or sa bakuran.
Yes, sir.
Hindi na bawal na ngayon. 8749 no. So rin no in consonance with sa ano rin, no? Sa NFPA. Meron lang mga designated na burning areas, especially dun sa mga, may mga bansa kasi na gumagamit ng mga burning areas or machine, no? Yung pag machine ang ginamit mo, ang tawag doon ay incinerator. Sa Pilipinas, hindi inaprobahan yung yung incinerator eh. So landfill ang ginagamit natin, landfill, no? Yung binabaon yung basura. So may mga disadvantage din. Pero ang sinasabi ko lang na may mga approved areas halimbawa sa US na mga pwedeng magsunog, no? Sa Pilipinas bawal bawal lang pagsusunog, no? Binabaon lang yung mga yung mga basura saan ba yun? Yung sa Payatas, di ba? Sa Payatas tsaka sa iba pa.
Opo, sir, opo.
Okay. Sige.
So, sprinkler system.
Ayan, sprinkler.
A sprinkler system for fire protection purposes is an integrated system of underground and overhead piping engineering standards. The installation includes a water supply such as gravity tank, fire pump, reservoir pressure tank, and or connection by underground piping to a city main. The portion of the sprinkler system above ground is a network of specially sized or hydraulically designed piping installation in a building, structure or area to which sprinklers are connected. The system includes a controlling valve and alarm device where the system is in operation. The sprinkler head of the system is usually activated by the heat from a fire and discharges water over the fire area. So, ganito po yung tsura ng sprinkler, sir.
Sprinkler yan.
Ayan. Meron din po corresponding color, sir. Tawag dito, pag yung temperature, sir, na-reach, parang mag-open yung bulb. Kita po ba? Hindi yata kita.
May kulay yung yung material, anong tawag yan? Yung glass bulb?
Sir. Opo, sir.
Oh, may kulay, no? Depende sa range ng temperature
Opo,
na
sir.
kung saan, na kung kailan sila mag-aano. Kasi mag-aano, di ba? Mag-aano yan, mag-burst ba yan? Paano ba gumagana yan?
Pag sir, halimbawa po, yung orange, sir, pag na-reach na po yung yung
Yung
temperature,
temperature na gano'n.
halimbawa po, 135 Fahrenheit or 57 degrees, sir, po siya, 57 degrees Celsius po, sir. Parang magbubukas po yung yung
Mag-break, parang mag-open siya, di ba? Kasi siyempre sarado yan, umpisa, di ba? Nakasarado yan, di ba?
Opo, sir.
Doon mag-open siya.
Meron pong pitong kulay, sir.
Okay. So parang yan, yung bali temperature activated, di ba?
Opo,
Depende
sir.
sa init.
Opo,
Kasi siyempre apoy Di ba? Pag apoy, may init, no? So ganyan pala yun. Ano naman tong isa na to, nasa kanan? Ano yan?
Parts po, sir. Parts po. Ng, din po, sprinkler, sir.
Sprinkler din type. Pero ano ba? Papataas naman? Mechanical feasible din.
Lang po.
Baka binaliktad lang, no?
Opo,
Pinataas
sir.
lang.
Opo, para makita po, sir.
Well, clip, lever arms, frames. Okay. Deflector.
So, ito po yun, sir, yung mesa mga kulay, sir. Table po, table.
Okay. Ceiling temperature, temperature rating. Patingin nga, temperature classification, high, ultra high. Yan. So color-coded, no? Color-coded talaga.
So, classification of sprinkler system. First is wet pipe system, a system employing automatic sprinklers attached to a piping system containing water and connected to a water supply so that water discharges immediately from sprinklers opened by a fire. This is the type of sprinkler system commonly used and adaptable to the climate in the country. So, ito yung tsura niya. Typical. Nasa taas yung sprinklers.
So nasa taas yung mga balik mga doon, nasa taas yung mga yung mga sprinkler.
Opo, sir.
Yung parang nakikita natin sa 'di ba sa SM, sa Robinson. 'Di ba ganyan, no? Maraming Binanggit ba diyan yung mga distance? Kasi may mga yan specified distance bawat isa. 'Di ba makikita mo ganyan tapos susunod halos magkakalapit lang. May nabanggit ba diyan kung ilang feet or meter? Wala ba nabanggit?
Sir, alam ko po meron dito, sir.
Okay. Sige. Tuloy mo na lang muna. Pero alam ko may specified na Mga distancing yan eh.
Next is the lodge system. A system employing open sprinklers attached to a piping system connected to a water supply through which is opened by the operation of a fire detection system installed in the same areas as the sprinklers. Where this valve opens, water flows into the piping system and discharges from all sprinklers attached to their. This is the system used in extra hazard areas like an aircraft hangar, storage tanks of combustible liquids, gases and oils, high voltage substations, transformers. Foam chemicals may be incorporated to the system to be more effective in firefighting Class B fires. So, ganito yung tsura niya. Next is dry pipe. Dry pipe sprinklers are similar to pre-action systems as they use pressurized air in the pipe which exits before water escapes. This causes a minute delay in water discharge but is ideal for buildings with a low temperature so the pipe do not freeze. These fire sprinkler systems have a fast opening tool to get rid of the air and speed up the flow of water. Warehouses located in the north are good example of buildings. So, ito yung tsura niya naman.
Dry pipe. Yan naman, dry pipe, ano?
Opo, sir. May kasama pong air pressure, sir. Yung water pressure.
Okay.
Bali, bago po
Parang ano yun, parang pantulak siguro yun, no? Yung air pressurized, no?
Opo, sir. Bali,
Para tinutulak.
yung
Tinutulak. Pang press siguro yun.
So, pre-action. Pre-action fire sprinkler systems are filled with air and water is allowed to pass through when the smoke alarm or detector goes off. This type of system requires two triggers to start water flow. It helps greatly the pre-action fire sprinkler that can be set to prevent water from spouting in case of a false alarm and a mechanical failure. The pre-action system is good for a cause in places where the sprinklers are only necessary when there is an actual fire, so other items in the building do not get water damage from an accidental sprinkling. Such buildings include libraries and data centers. These places contain items of high value like electronics and goods damageable by water such as books. So, medyo similar lang siya dun sa kanina, sa deluge system. So, classification of occupancies, light hazard occupancies, occupancies where the quality and or combustibility of contents are low and fire with relatively low rate of heat release are expected. Light hazard occupancies include occupancies having conditions similar to churches, club, educational, hospital, libraries, except large stock rooms, museum, nursing, or convalescent homes, office including data processing, residential, restaurant seating areas, theaters, and auditoriums, excluding stages and prosceniums, and unused attics. Next is ordinary hazard occupancies. There are three groups of ordinary hazard occupancies. First is group 1, occupancies where combustible is low, quality of combustible is moderate. Stockpiles of combustibles do not exceed 2,400 millimeters and fire with moderate rate of heat release are expected. Included in this group are the following having conditions similar to automobile parking garage, beverages manufacturing, canneries, dairy products manufacturing and processing, electronic plates, glass and glass product manufacturing, laundries and restaurant services area. Next is the group 2, occupancies where quantity and combustible of content is moderate. Stockpiles do not exceed 3,700 millimeter and fire with moderate heat release is expected. Under this group are the following: machine shops, metalworking, cold storage warehouses, large stock rooms area. Next is group 3, occupancies where quantity and or combustibility of content is high and fire of high rate of release are expected. Included in this group are the following having conditions similar to paper process plants, piers and wharves, repair garages, tire manufacturing, warehouses, and wood machining. Next is extra hazard occupancies. Occupancies where quantity of combustibility of content is very high and flammable and combustible liquid, dust, inks, or other materials are present, introducing the probability of rapidly developing fire with high rate of heat release. Extra hazard occupancies are classified into two groups. First is the group 1, include occupancies and describe above with the little or no flammable or combustible liquids. Combustible hydraulic liquids use area like casting, metal extruding, plywood and particle board manufacturing. So next is for group 2, include occupancies with moderate to substantial amount of flammable or combustible liquids or where shielding of combustible air extensive. Asphalt, for example, asphalt saturating, flammable liquid spraying, open oil quenching. So ito yung guide to water supply requirements for pipe schedule sprinkler system sa different classification ng hazards.
Ano yan? Yung mga capacity, no? Liter, yung flow, liter per minute.
Liter per minute po, sir.
Yung capacity niya in terms of liter per minute, tsaka pressure. Depende sa hazard, no? So yung group group 2 yan ba yung mataas yung hazard, no?
Ito po, sir.
Group 2 ba yan? Ordinary hazard, light hazard.
Meron pa pong extra, sir.
Meron pang iba.
Pero po nakalagay dito. So, sprinkler system required the following water supply provided the capacity and reliability is acceptable. First is gravity ducts, capacity and elevation of the tank, fire protection use, and the arrangement of the supply piping shall provide the volume and pressure requirements as designed. Next is pump, supplied under positive head from the water tank, shall be an acceptable water supply source. Fire pump must be under wires laboratory listed or factory mutual approved. Next is pressure tank and the fire department connections. So ito po sir yung sir, sprinkler discharge
Ano
parameter.
yan? May factor, gallons per minute capacity per PSI. Naka-square root ba yan?
Opo sir.
1/2, no?
GPM per
Nominal K factor. Mga factor pala yan.
Opo sir.
Percent of nominal K factor 5 to 6. Tapos yung gagamitin na thread, no, yung pang mga tubo na may tornilyo, no? Thread, NPT. 1/2 NPT. No, kasi English or American system, no? Okay. Discharge. So discharge characteristic. Ano naman yan? Maximum protection area of coverage and sprinkler spacing.
Ito po sir.
Ayan, yan natin tinatanong kanina, di ba?
Opo,
Yan ba yung mga spacing?
Opo.
Protection area, maximum, minimum, tsaka maximum. Mga spacing.
Opo, sir.
Depende sa area,
Opo sir. Depende din po
sa space. No, halimbawa, siyempre, di ba yung mga kisame, di ba? Sa kisame kadalasan ginagawa, makocompute mo yung area, no? May square feet, may square meter. Ito yung spacing feet tsaka meter din. Yan. No? Ano naman to? Construction type, non-combustible.
Kung
Ano
combustible,
yan?
ano po sir?
Depende.
Opo.
Depende sa kung combustible tsaka non-combustible. Unobstructed, no? Kung may mga nakaharang at so, kung ano-ano pa. So, kompleto na pala dyan, no? Pati yung schedule ng pipe, no? Pipe schedule, calculated, and so on. Okay. Sige. So naka-table na pala, no? Table.
Opo, sir. Ito po. Ganun din po siya, sir. Kadugtong lang.
Galing din yan sa Galing din yan sa NFPA, yung chapter 10 nila.
Yes, sir.
So kompleto na pala sa 'di ba? Kasi American organization 'yan, 'di ba? National Fluid Power Association, no? So kompleto pala doon, no? Mga area, tas yung pressure, yung gagamitin na fittings or yung pipe. Nandun na pala, ano? O, sige. So ano pang meron dyan?
Yun din, sir, table. Kasunod lang po, sir.
Fire pump?
Fire pumps po, sir.
Sige.
A fire pump is a device that provides the required water flow and pressure for a fire protection system. The fire pump unit itself consists of pump, a driver coupling connecting the two, and the base plate. Fire pumps are normally purchased as a complete package that includes the following. First is the pump accessory or the electric drive, including automatic air release valves, pressure gauges, circulation relief valve, and hose header complete with hose valves for outdoor use or flow meter. Next is the fire pump controller with remote pump panel, including power transfer switch. Next is pressure maintenance pump and maintenance pump controller. Fire pump unit responsibility. The fire pump unit, consisting of a pump, driver, and controller, shall perform in compliance with this standard as an entire unit when installed for or when components have been replaced. A single entity should be designed as having unit responsibilities for the fire pump, driver, controller, transfer switch, equipment, and accessories. Unit responsibility means the accountability to answer and resolve all the problems regarding the proper installation, compatibility, performance, and maintenance of the equipment. Unit responsibility should not be constructed to mean purchase of all components from single supplier.
Oh my God!
Flushing. Flushing the suction line is intended to remove debris that may enter the piping damage.
We
The
have two supports.
table for flush rates for positive displacement pumps. So from NFP table. So for hydrostatic tests, the flushing and hydrostatic tests are identical to the tests required for all water-based fire protection system. So for testing pressure, all new systems are required to be tested hydrostatically and the minimum pressure of either 200 psi or equivalent to 6 bar or 50 psi equivalent to 3.4 bar above the maximum discharge pressure. However, is greater at the power pump, discharge plants, verification at the proper pressure rating for pipe and fittings. It is used in the ventilation. Note, suction and discharge piping shall be hydrostatically tested at not less than 200 psi pressure or 50 psi in excess of the maximum pressure to be maintained in the system. Field acceptance test. Pump and drivers on separately coupled type pumps shall be aligned in accordance with the coupling and pump manufacturer's specifications and the Hydraulic Institute standards for centrifugal, rotary, and reciprocate. A pump and driver shipped from the factory with both machines mounted on a common base plate are accurately aligned before shipment. All base plates are flexible to some extent and therefore should not be relied upon to maintain the factory alignment. The two forms of misalignment between the pump shaft and the driver are as follows. First is the angular misalignment, shaft with axis concentric but not parallel. The parallel misalignment, shafts with axis parallel but not. The faces of the coupling valve should be spaced with the manufacturer's recommendation and far enough apart so that cannot strike each other when the driver rotor is moving hard over toward the pump. The unit should be checked periodically for alignment. If the unit does not stay in line after being properly installed, the following are possible causes. First is setting, loosening or straining of the foundation and pipes, turning or shifting the machine. Second is squaring of the bearings. Third is springing on the base plate by heat from an adjacent pipe from a steam turbine. Shifting of the building structure due to a variable load or other causes. If the unit and foundation are needed for alignment to be slightly adjusted from time to time. Performance result. In addition to verifying proper operation of system components, the most important performance acceptance test is to verify the manufacturer shop test curve. The field acceptance test should illustrate the same performance of the pump following installation as that observed during the shop test. Therefore, it is critical to have the shop test results available for the field acceptance test. A properly plotted fire pump curve will illustrate at least 3 points. First is the churn. The pump is operating with no flow. Second is rated capacity. The pump is discharging water at the specified pressure. Third is overload. The pump is discharging water at a rate of 150% of rated flow at a pressure of 65% of rated. The fire pump operation is as follows. First is the motor-driven pump. To start a motor-driven pump, the following steps should be taken in the following order. First is see the pump is completely firm. Next is close isolated switch and then close circuit breaker. Next is automatic controller will stop pump if system demand is not satisfied. Next is for manual operation, activate switch, push button, or manual start handle. Circuit breaker tripping mechanism should be set so that it will not operate when current and circuit is excessively large. Stream driven pump. A steam turbine driven a fire pump should always be kept warm up to permit instant operation at full rated speed. Automatic starting of the turbine should not be dependent on any manual valve operation or period of low speed operation. Next is diesel engine driven pump. To start a diesel engine driven pump, the operator should be familiar beforehand with the operation of this type of equipment. The instruction books issued by the engine and control manufacturer should be studied to this end. Fire pump settings. First is the jockey pump. Top point should equal the pump churn pressure plus the minimum static supply pressure. The jockey pump start point should be at least 10 pound per square inch, less than the jockey pump stop point. The fire pump start point should be 5 psi less than the jockey use 10 psi increments for each additional pump. Where minimum run times are provided, the pump will continue to operate after attaining these pressures. The final pressure should be the final limits of the system. When the operating differential pressure switches does not permit the settings should be as close equipment will permit. The settings should be established by pressures observed by the test gauge. Example of fire pump settings for SI unit is English to pump 1000 GPM, 100 PSI pump, and third pressure of 115 PSI. Suction supply, PSI from CT, minimum static, 60 PSI from CT, maximum static. For jockey stop, for jockey pump stop, 115 PSI, 50 PSI equals to 165 PSI.
Ano ba yung jockey pump na yan? Yung mas maliit ba yan? O starting pump ba yan?
Opo, sir. Ito po yung
Lagi ko narinig yan eh. Pag sa mga fire pump, may jockey pump muna. Mas maliit siguro yan na ano? Na pump.
parang yung start-stop button po, sir.
Pang-start siya.
Opo, sir.
Jockey pump start. Okay. Sige.
So, for automatic recorder, the performer of all fire pumps should be automatically indicated on a pressure recorder to provide a record pump operation and assistant in fire loss investigation. Yun lang po, sir.
Sige.